Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
One of my viewers wanted to know, how can we improve male mental health here in America? And the way we improve male mental health here in America is we have to invest in our young boys and invest in our young men at an early age. The earlier we start investing time and resources into our young boys and our young men, the faster we can deal with many of the issues they have before they eventually turn into many of the issues as related to mental health that are creating what I call the man crisis here in America in my book, The Man Crisis. Because the reason why we have a male mental health problem here in America is because we have marginalized men in our society over the last 50 years. And because we have marginalized men over the last 50 years in our quest to empower women, so many of our men are falling through the cracks. And because they fall through those cracks, that's the core reason why many men are struggling with mental health issues and why so many men are not able to deal with their mental health issues, because we often try to think, oh, he can just deal with it as a man, but no man has ever just dealt with it as a man. If you look at society before feminism became the mainstream, men had a strong support system. And your support system of men was older men teaching and preparing younger men, older men giving advice and guidance to younger men, and fathers teaching and preparing their sons for a world where things work differently for them than women. And that's one of the things that I believe is fueling a lot of the mental health issues many men are having, is being raised in female environments and learning female life skills, because the way the world works is different for a man than it is for a woman, and because a boy does not get male life skills and male survival skills from men, or learn the unwritten social rules as related to men at an early age, he then goes out into the world thinking that the world is going to work the way it works for females. And because he's learned female life skills and female survival skills, what happens is he comes in for a rude awakening, and that rude awakening is the thing that leads to him having mental health issues, because he's trying to survive in a world that expects him to be a man, but then he's thinking he can use the approaches and tactics that women use, but those approaches and tactics don't work because, again, the world works differently for a man than it does a woman, and the world expects different things from a man than it does a woman. And what happens to many men is because they are trying to use these approaches they learned from their mothers and your gynocentric media about being a soft male or a nice guy. They wind up becoming extremely frustrated. They become extremely angry, and this leads to a deterioration of their mental health. And this deterioration of their mental health leads to them going out and participating in addictions to drugs or addictions to other different things. And they do this because they have nobody to really work with to help them deal with their issues or help them navigate the world around them. So a lot of these men, they start to get mental health issues because they're trying to find a way to make the world work, but the way they have been taught the way the world works by their mothers and by the media they have imbibed runs counter to the way the world actually expects it to work. Now, the other way that we can help improve male mental health is men have to come in and start investing time in other men the way we used to do it before the feminist movement. Before the feminist movement, older men would talk to younger men, and fathers would talk to their sons, and they would tell them the truth about the world. And as they were telling them the truth, they would teach them the male life skills and male survival skills that they would need to go out in the world. And as they were working with men and getting masculine energy, they would also learn the unwritten social rules that men participate in, because there's an unwritten code that men have. And many of these males who are having these serious issues, a lot of them are not getting the unwritten social rules and getting the code that they need to go out here. So a lot of these guys, they're going out here with this female plan and these female ideas and these Hollywood ideas about the world. And that is one of the things that is leading to their mental health deteriorating, because they're trying to use a frame of logic that does not work in the real world. So these guys are not living in the real world. They're living in a world that women told them the way the world was like, and corporations in Hollywood tells them the way the world is like, but the way the world is completely different. And that is causing a lot of the mental health issues that a lot of guys are having. And what exacerbates it is you get males who wind up going into echo chambers where they listen to large amounts of misinformation, and they're not getting good information from healthy men. Because a healthy man will sit down with another man and tell him what the deal is, and then help him work towards solutions that will help him move his life forward. So a lot of guys, they have problems, but the whole thing is they don't have any support system. They don't have any sort of people to give them guidance. I mean, in our society, we have all of this talk about female empowerment and girl power, but we leave our boys to the wayside, and because there's nobody there to give them any help, they wind up, their mental health winds up deteriorating to the point where many wind up getting involved with addictions like drugs and alcohol. Others wind up sitting there listening to all sorts of paranoid conspiracy theories and think about participating in violence to end their lives in a blaze of glory. And then some sit in silence and ponder committing suicide because they feel like they have no hope. They feel like they have nobody to give them any sort of support. And they feel frustrated because they feel like they're supposed to just suck it up and be a man. But men have never so-called sucked it up and been a man. Whenever they had issues, they used to have support systems they could go to for help in other men, whether it be a barber shop full of guys or a male space where they could talk to another man. There was always a group of guys they could go and talk to. But we have not invested in male spaces or male support systems, and because we have not invested in developing healthy male support systems, this is why we have a mental health crisis with men here in America. And many people look at the addiction and all of the violence as things, but they are symptoms of a man crisis where men are not given the guidance and support that they need to be able to learn how to think critically, how to conflict resolve, and how to work out issues. Because a lot of the issues that lead to a lot of men's mental health deteriorating, a lot of these things are things that can be worked out with a professional mental health person like a psychotherapist, or even a group of men coming together. But a lot of men are told to just be silent and suck it up. But that was never the case at all. That was a mainstream media narrative that was meant to promote some sort of false idea of manhood. But men have always worked with other men, and they have always talked about their problems in private and worked through their issues in private and dealt with those issues, because again, the only person who understands about a man's issues is another man. And what we have done over the last 50 years is take men away from their support system by saying groups of men coming together was sexist, groups of men coming together was bad, and groups of men sitting and talking about problems is something that is a sign of weakness, but it was never a sign of weakness. It takes great strength of character for a man to acknowledge that he has a problem, and it takes a great strength of character for a man to go and work with other men. This is something that Dr. Robert Glover talks about in his book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, because a lot of the so-called nice guys, they hold their issues inside, and a lot of men who have mental health problems, what they did was they held their problems inside, thinking that being strong was holding everything in, but holding everything in is how you wind up with your mental health deteriorating, because holding problems in, what that does is it makes it where you continue to try to work things out in your own mind, and trying to come up with a solution. This is the thing that can make you almost go crazy. This is something I have had to deal with in my own life as related to my long-term unemployment situation. And I remember thinking so much that at the point was giving me migraines and anxiety. And I know what the guys have to deal with out here as related to mental health, because men, we try to work out these problems through logic, but when we can't find a logical solution, what happens is we start to become extremely frustrated, angry, and then we wind up exploding in rage, where we either wind up doing harm to others who we love, or we do harm to others outside, or even worse, we do harm to ourselves because we are told, oh, you just need to go deal with your problems and just go over here and be by yourself. But no man should ever be alone, because God never meant for a man to be alone. While he gave you a woman to be a helpmeet, he also gave you other men, and he gave you those other men so that you could gain perspective on issues and perspective on problems, and possibly work on solutions that will help you move forward. It's for men to work together. And again, men working together helps deal with the male mental health issue, because the time we invest in other men to give them guidance and support, the time we take to even just sit there and listen to another man, that can transform a man's life, and it can lead to a man not feeling like he's alone and not feeling like his whole world is falling apart. And sometimes it's little things and little gestures that can keep a man from feeling like his whole life is practically falling apart, and it feels like he has nothing to lose. So a lot of the times it's just something as simple as investing time in listening to someone, or sitting down and helping somebody work through a problem. That's how we help deal with male mental health here in America, because the big mental health episodes we see, they started out as small problems, and if we invested a little time in people when their problems were small, they would not mushroom to the point where people would have violent episodes. Because if we sat there and invested a little time in someone and helped them work through whatever problem they had, whether it be dealing with a breakup, dealing with long-term unemployment, dealing with issues that lead up to the addiction, because people take drugs because they are having problems, or they're having other issues. These are issues that can be worked on, but we have to invest time in our men out here. And again, that's how we improve male mental health, because we have to acknowledge men have problems, men have issues, and the faster we work on dealing with their issues, that's how we improve male mental health here in America. And we also have to make it where we see a man who has problems not as some sort of soft, sensitive guy who is talking about feelings, because men don't talk about feelings. No, men are logical, and men want to work through problems. And if we help a man work through problems, that can improve his mental health, because what he wants is a solution, and he wants to be able to work through that issue by solving the problem. And that's the problem with these emotional guys, is they want to talk about feelings, but men don't want to they want to solve a problem. And that's one of the things that leads to many of the mental health issues some guys have, is they're trying to work through this problem that they're having, and they're trying to work through whatever issue they're having and be able to move themselves forward. Now, the whole thing again with male mental health is, again, we have to acknowledge that our men are not perfect, that men have issues, and that it's okay for men to sit down and talk about issues, and it's okay to ask for help. And asking for help is not weakness. No, asking for help is a sign of character, and it's a sign of a man who loves himself. So we have to make an environment where men feel safe to go out here and be able to work on their issues. And again, that's all part of investing in our men, and that's how we solve this part of the man crisis, which is the deteriorating mental health of men here in America. Now, this was a video that a viewer requested, and if you want to request a video and I know something about the subject, you can donate to my Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. And if I know something about that subject, I will make that video for you. And if you want to pick up the Man Crisis and learn more about the issues that men are having here in America, you can find that book on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females like Instagram models and e-girls in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Get your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace in paperback and Kindle today.